What's up guys, my name is Chad Smith with Local Landscapers. We created this training video for our company on mulch training. We're having this big training initiative even on simple services like mulch. This video ended up quite a bit longer than I was anticipating, but I couldn't find anything on YouTube that was geared more towards like employee training. So that was the purpose of this video, is so we can have something our guys will see. We use a program called Greenius to do training. So we'll make this video and then we'll have tests associated with it. And I just wanted to make this available to anyone else who may be using the same thing or just wanted a good resource of information. I'm sure some of this stuff might be different from how you do it, but this is just how we do it. So appreciate you watching and let's get into it. All right, so first thing in the morning, you have a job planner. The job planner will tell you what you need, what tools you need, what materials you might need from the shop before you go. There should also be a video walkthrough. If there is, be sure to watch the entire video walkthrough to see if there's any special tools you might need, like a pole saw. It could be, for this situation, we loaded some bags of topsoil for some planting. We have two or three trees that we're planting, and we have some topsoil in there. We also want to check the truck to make sure we got everything loaded. So we already went through and loaded everything, so we've got 3 wheelbarrows. These are good to go. It's ideal to have 3, but we need a minimum of 2 when we're doing mulching projects. The other thing is we'd want to make sure we have the plants. In this case, the client is supplying the plants, so we didn't have to load the plants. Another thing we always want to check before you leave the shop is that you have a clean dump trailer. And if you don't, make sure it's okay. So we want to make sure there's no dirt, debris, rocks, or anything in this dump trailer when we're going to be doing a mulching project, because it makes it a lot harder to filter out the gravel and stuff when we're loading the wheelbarrows if there's a bunch of gravel in the bottom of the trailer. If there is, get rid of it at the shop, or if you find that you can't or something like that, just make sure you push it all to a corner before you get loaded in mulch. In this case, we put our topsoil right here, but we're going to get rid of this as soon as we get to the job when we start planting. Another thing that you want to check on the job planner is the color of the mulch. It'll also likely say it in the video. And then what you need to do is just make sure that we don't have that mulch at the shop. If we do, let's use the mulch at the shop, or any materials that we already have at the shop. Try to use those instead of buying brand new. But if not, just make sure you have the color in mind at least. And if it's not very clear, be sure to ask whoever wrote the video or the job planner. All right, so we just arrived to the job site, and the first thing you need to do before you unload or touch anything is watch the video again. Make sure you're at the right house. Like, you should be able to see the video in the house, so make sure you're at the right house. That's most important. Second, just walk through the video as he's going through it so you have a good understanding of the scope of the work. If there's any questions, give a call. If you feel like, all right, this wasn't very clear, and ask some questions. Text, call, whatever you need to do before you get started. So, in this case, we don't have mulch. We didn't have it at the shop, so we did not load it up, but we loaded up the topsoil. And we know we're gonna be mulching this right here. And so we gotta get it cleaned up. So while one person cleans up, the other one's gonna need to take the truck and go ahead and get the mulch. So that's the first thing. So there should be, that way when this is all cleaned up, 2 people are like, all right, now we need mulch. Always plan ahead. So just think about like, all right, what are we gonna need next? And about, I don't know, this is probably not gonna take us about somewhere maybe 30, 40 minutes to clean up. We're gonna need mulch. So we might as well send somebody up there to go get the mulch. We have numbers on the job planner, but always use your judgment. I have a saying called trust but verify, and I use this just about with everything. It's trust the numbers, but just verify that you think they're accurate. So like if you get here and you're like, all right, well, this bed and that bed back there, yeah, that's probably gonna be about 3 yards is what I think we have on the job planner. I'm gonna go with that. Or if you're like, dude, there's no way it's gonna cover. Maybe we're doing it thinner. Maybe we just need to get an extra yard of mulch, or maybe like we have too much mulch on the planter. We're like, all right, this is like 1 scoop here, and this is all we're doing. There's no way we're gonna need 3 yards. So just use your judgment as well. And if you have any questions with that, feel free to ask. Send a text. Text is the best ways to ask those questions. When you're getting mulch, always try to choose the closer place, but we also have to plan a little bit with that. So if it's a Friday and we're just starting this job and we know it's going to be finished on Monday and we're probably going to need at least a couple loads of mulch, don't go to Lake Stone and mulch. And the reason for that is they're closed on Mondays. So if we get started with their mulch and then we have to go to the nursery's mulch, there might be an inconsistency in the color. So just always kind of keep those little things in mind as well. Peg he's gonna leave the tools that we need to continue working, and he's gonna go ahead and grab the mulch. And he's gonna get it from Lake Stone and Mulch because that is the closer one, and we're gonna be able to finish this project this afternoon. So there's no point not to just take advantage of the closer place. So we're gonna talk about a mistake that I just made. So we unloaded all the tools right there, and the closest part of the project is right here. We should have pulled the truck all the way up here and then unloaded the tools. So always try to get the truck to the closest part of the to the job. That way, now I got to spin back and forth running all this stuff. So just another tip. All right, so this is a action hoe or a loop hoe, and this is used for scraping weeds out. And the way you do it, so we have these weeds here, it's really great. So you take these long strokes like this, and it chops the roots.
Much better. I was being gentle.
So what it does, it actually takes a whole layer of soil and it cuts. It's like a razor blade. You can kind of see it took the whole bulb out in this case, but it's probably just cutting most of this stuff. You can see it takes it out pretty deep. There's a bulb that just got cut in half. So that's how you use the action hoe, or the loop hoe, as it just weighs off of it. And that's how you do it. And we're gonna go through the whole bed and tear these up where the weeds are. It's ideal to have it sprayed ahead of time. That's our goal, typically, to have it sprayed a couple weeks ahead of time. So this stuff is already dying. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and work this whole bed. So something else you wanna do when you're mulching areas is if you have ornaments and stuff like that, stepping stones, before you put the new mulch down, pull them out and then set them back in the new mulch. That way you're not covering it in mulch, or it's not high around it, because it'll end up spilling over, especially like a stepping stone. So make sure you pull out the ornaments, have an idea where they go. If there's a bunch, take a photo beforehand, and you can use that photo as your reference and to know where to put them back. So this bed has a plastic edging all the way around, and what we want to do is we're going to scrape the mulch away from the edging. That way we can have fresh mulch along the border without it spilling over into the lawn. So realistically, we'd want to remove about 3 inches away from borders, 2 to 3 inches. This one's only about 1 inch tall, so I can't really go any deeper than what I've just done. And then after we remove the mulch from the edges, we're going to want to flatten all of the old area out, the old grade, so that when we put the mulch on there, we're not trying to grade it with the new mulch. So this is what I would consider a soft rake, and some folks like to use this to spread mulch, and I'll show you how they like to do that. We're going to use it on the old mulch for example's sake. So you flip it the right way to move the piles of mulch, and then you can flip it backwards to get it smooth. And if you find you have a low spot, you can just flip it, grab some mulch. Now the only thing left is we need to get it a little bit deeper along this walkway. So we're going to dig this out a little bit. Okay, so as we can see, you know, we have room for mulch to get into here now. And then we're gonna go work our way in the back. All right, so we're gonna be cleaning up this bed right here, and we need to dig in a trenched edge. We can see where the edge was this past season. Since I'm right-handed, I'm gonna start on the left side of the mulch bed and work my way this way with the edging. So we have two types of edging shovels. They're both the same end. This one's shorter and it has a D handle. So if somebody says, hey, we have a D handle, etc., or so-and-so, it means this is the D handle right here. This is a edging shovel is what we use it for. It has a foot pad right here. So it's really heavy, it's a solid steel piece of metal. So it's really nice, it should not break unless it gets run over with something. So what we're gonna do is we just need to find our line where we're gonna be edging, which it's already here, so there's really no point to draw it out. But what we need to do is come in, go like this, and you can kick it forward. There's a root there. A lot of roots here. We're just getting a rough edge in real quick, and then we'll come in and tidy it up. So I'm stomping it and then kicking it this way. If you put it in the ground and go like this, it can push back the edge here, and you don't want to do that. The way you can avoid that is you can put your boot here and use your boot as a guide to prevent it from smashing the edge. So obviously we have some mulch on the outside. What we're gonna need to do is blow that in. We'll do that at the very last, right before we start putting mulch down. But now we have this deep V, and what we need to do is we need to cut in basically off the edge right here. So this gives a spot for the mulch to sit without falling into the grass.
You might have shut off on the chest.
Nope, still recording.
Okay.
So now we have this really deep area, and we're gonna do this all the way around to get the edge cut in. So let's go ahead and get it going. So it's a little too steep.
Too steep?
Yeah, you see how I got it flatter down there?
Oh, I see.
Yep.
Okay.
You're good. You can't really go too deep if it's just too steep, so you just need to cut it further back. So what you can do here is just scrape it back, to scrape the mulch back, all the loose stuff out of there.
Okay.
That way you don't have to mess with it again, and then you can start cutting it again. Yeah, you got a great angle right there. So he went ahead and cut this, and now he's cutting in to get that V open, and this will get, you know, mulch, but the mulch is only going to come up halfway up the new edge. And then what we can do is we can come back through and tidy up the circle, make sure it's all smooth edge throughout, get any imperfections, make sure it's relatively vertical as well. Okay, so this is a cross section of what the edging would look like. So this right here is a straight up and down where we put the shovel and we kicked it into the bed. So this is like the grass out here. Basically, we want to shave this hump down because if we're trying to aim halfway here and get a nice smooth surface, it's gonna be very thin right here. And what happens is the mulch just kind of moves around, wears away, and then you start to see like old stuff pop up right here. So you want to shave this off to make it so we have a consistent depth all the way through. So we still have this nice depth all the way through to the edge of the bed. So that's why we're shaving it in this direction as well. And as I was making the video, it is a lot easier to come in behind the mulch, like into the trench and scoop it out instead of going sideways like I started doing. Just a tip. So now what we need to do is, now that we got our edge cut in, we're just gonna leave that for a second, and we're gonna try to smooth out the rest of this. And then I'm gonna go ahead and grab the backpack blower, and we're gonna blow off like the first foot of the lawn area into the bed, and then we're gonna blow out this edge, make sure it's nice and clean. All right, so the reason I blew out the first foot of the lawn, so when we're mulching and we spill a little bit in this grass, it's a lot cleaner when we push it back into the bed. There's not gonna be as much debris with it, so it makes it a cleaner finish when we're done. So you always wanna blow after you clean up, but before the mulch. That way when you do the mulch, it's usually just blowing the brand new mulch back into the bed, and there's not a bunch of debris sitting all over the new mulch. So it makes things a little bit easier. I blew out the edges as well to give more room for that fresh mulch to kind of come in here. You also want to be mindful of where you're blowing too. So we have gravel walkway and pavers over there. So I was trying to blow it back into the lawn so that the dirt would just go into the grass. So no big deal. But if it goes into the gravel and all that, it just creates a huge mess. All right, so something really important to do after you get the beds cleaned, watch the video again. Make sure you got them all. This little bed is kind of hidden on the side and we almost forgot about it. But yeah, so we've got that one almost prepped. We just got a few piles in there that we're gonna need to pull out. And we're gonna finish this guy, and then we need to plant these trees for this particular project. And then we're just doing a spring cleanup. Like there's a bunch of sticks everywhere. We're gonna get them all out of here. So we're gonna start picking those up. All right, so we've got this bed prepped here. I went ahead and scraped around the edge of the plastic. Typically, if we're going to, like, I guess, a concrete or paver sidewalk, we want to go down at least 2 inches. This is a really shallow plastic edging, so it's only about an inch or so, but it should be enough for what we're doing. Okay, so for smaller cleanup projects that are not going to take more than 1 dump trailer load of debris, the debris should be taken either at the end of the day or at the end of the job. So what we're doing is we're getting all the debris and we're gonna pile it on a tarp. We're gonna go through and mulch, and then we gotta pick up sticks to do the lawn and all that. It's another part of this project. And then we're gonna throw all the debris on. This saves us so much time because we don't have to get all this cleaned up and then wait for somebody to go dump this on the other side of the lake and then get the mulch. And then we have people here waiting because if all the debris is cleaned up, it's pretty much ready for mulch. So we need to plan things like that, be very thoughtful on things like that. So this is what we're doing. We're just putting it on the tarp, and then we're going to take the tarp and load it up there once we get the trailer empty. And then we're just going to, this property actually has gravel that goes all the way back there, so we're going to be throwing the sticks right into the dump trailer, so we only have to touch them 1 time. So be mindful of that. The debris should be the last thing that should be coming out with you, not the first thing to go out of here. Unless there's more than 1 load of debris, then it may make sense to take that 1 load, the first load at least, and then dump that. And then depending on what's left, if it's like a half load after that, then go ahead and get the mulch, drop the mulch, load the rest of the debris up, and repeat. So be mindful and plan those trips as efficiently as you possibly can. There should never be 2 guys in a truck going to get mulch. The only time there should be 2 guys in a truck is if they're going to the job, or they're coming from the job, or they're going to the next job. So there should never be 2 guys in a truck going to go get any materials or anything like that. It just does not make sense. So you always want to put the tarp down before we open the dump trailer. So that way, Peg, pull the tarp all the way to the wall. Since we got enough room. There we go. So when you have small areas like this, and you have a really big project, these are the areas that we typically do last, because we would have to basically work right out of the wheelbarrow, and that ties up 1 person focused on working on that. But because this is the front, we're just gonna knock this out real quick and make sure this is all good looking stuff. All right, so now that we're mulching, we're gonna go ahead and take our little garden gnome out of here, and then we're gonna reset him after we mulch this little area. And the reason I waited until now to do it is so I know exactly where he was. I didn't do it at the beginning of the day, and then now I gotta figure out where was that guy at, or because usually there's a lot more ornaments on some of these properties. So now he's set on some fresh mulch. And then when we're mulching around trees, we want to go very thin. We do not want to bury the tree. So I'm going to just kind of toss it up here against it, and I'm going to rake it back. We do not want to bury trees at all. So you're almost going to see like the old mulch around trees. Just want to get a little color on there. Even this old mulch is a little high. So we're going to test that out. And just get a little color, pull it away. Any plants, we just want to be very thin against, just to get the color to cover the old stuff, but not bury the tree at all. So for these areas, I'm just doing it by hand because it's such a thin layer along this really thin border. It keeps the mess out of the lawn. Try to pull some of this new grass out as I go. It's really tricky because it's growing within the edging here. So when we're installing new mulch on existing mulch, usually only want to go about 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick. That's about all we're doing. Nothing too crazy, just 1 inch and 1.5 inches thick or so. Single shred would probably go 2 to 3 inches. Usually that's a thicker mulch anyway, so it's really hard to get a consistent coverage with that thin of a mulch layer. So as you can see, he's got the wheelbarrow pulled all the way up to it. That way when he's lifting the pitchfork out, all the spill is inside the bed and not in this lawn area. So you want to try to get your wheelbarrows within the bed, if possible, or very close to them, so there's a lot less cleanup and it's a much neater job when we're finished. And then we also want to just be sure, like he just got a little bit up there, but he cleaned it off. We want to be sure we're not making a mess in regards to that. All right, one thing we want to aim for when we're going against foundations, sidewalks, retaining walls, anything that has a back, is you can see the line of mulch. So I just went in here and tidied this up to make sure it looks nice. You want it to be nice and smooth. It's like a nice consistent line. So this side over here hasn't been touched yet, but we have a lump here, we have a lump there. We got a couple little lumps over there, but that stuff really makes a difference on the finish. So we always want to look against the foundation of the house or anything like that and look at the waves in the mulch. So this is nice and consistent all the way down, and then we just want to make sure we got the same going in over here. So let's go ahead and fix this. So another way that you can do it a little faster when you're doing bigger areas, you can use a pitchfork. Just the bottom of the pitchfork and go back and forth. And sometimes you will stir up some other stuff that was underneath. Just pull it out, cover some mulch back over it. I got a couple of things over there. I need a few more scoops back there, and we'll get that straight. Another thing you want to make sure is you want to make sure there's nothing left on these ledges. There's no fresh mulch, but there's some of the stuff from what's cleaning up. You want to make sure this is clean. And then on the house, right here. So we got like a little spot here. We can get that with the blower, but we just want to be mindful of those details. But we can get those with the blower, so we want to blow like the house off and all that good stuff as well. So one thing you really want to avoid is like the fresh mulch and you see grass coming through it. You want to just go ahead and take the time to pull that grass out so like all this mulch on the edge looks fresh. Like I said, this was in the edging, so we weren't really able to use the action touch. We had to just hand pull it. But yeah, make sure it's nice and clean. Consider the customer's perspective. If they see weeds on the edges, they're going to assume none of it was cleaned up. Even though we did clean almost all of it up except those edges that was growing within that edge. So just be mindful of that. Now we got this edge nice and smooth. It's a nice smooth grade going all the way through. There's no lumps or anything like that now. So something we also want to be mindful of is, you know, little fixtures like this. This is really easy to forget, getting the mulch into the light. Things are wet because it's raining today, so it's sticking to everything. But try to leave stuff clean. So we have a little bit of debris that got blew into the beds. So we'll just go through and pick out the bigger stuff. And then if there's like a bunch of little stuff, we can just kind of fluff the mulch over it. Just make it look a little tidy. I don't know that we did a great job blowing it off to begin with.
Backpack blower?
Nope. So the other thing we need to make sure we blow off is the wall. So we threw it over the wall, and there's some on the ledges right here, so we're gonna need to make sure we blow that off as well. So just be mindful of things like that we're leaving the job really clean, and we don't have stuff on the ledges and it just out of place just from us, you know, working essentially. So this section is done. Looks great. Nothing spilling over, it's all cleaned up. I'm gonna straighten this edge out because it's a little high right here, so we're gonna straighten this out, but other than that, we're good to go. All right, so we've got all 3 wheelbarrows up here. We got Brandon waiting for one to be filled. And then what he's gonna do, he's gonna be the one running them back and forth. So he's gonna be taking this wheelbarrow and taking it into the bed and dumping it in a few piles. And then we have him spaced like this so that when he comes back with the empty wheelbarrow, he can just put it right here and then take the next one and go on his way. Instead of having to take this one out, pull it out, and then put the other one up to it, it just makes it a lot faster and consistent for him. Now, something to consider. This job is very accessible. This is one of the most accessible mulch projects that I've seen in a really long time. So what he would do, so since he already dumped and now he's waiting on Peg to fill up the other one, usually he would start at the furthest bed while he's got the most energy and then work his way from that bed. Now, if he finds that Peg has got all these, the 2 filled up by the time he gets back, then he's gonna wanna dump one a little bit closer and then come back and drop that and then maybe take the next one further out. So he has, you know, Peg working the whole time. And that's gonna be the most efficient way to do that. This is how we load and transport mulch. We do not take our own individual wheelbarrow and, you know, go on our way and hang out in the backyard for 20 minutes and then come back and get another one. This is how we do it. Now, let's say we had a third person. The third person can be your flip-flop. That can be somebody that's helping run the wheelbarrows. In this case, that third person would just be spreading these piles of mulch and smoothing them out. So we have one loading, one running, and then one spreading. So if you had 3 people, but with 2, it's usually we'd come in here and just get all the mulch down or get started, and then they would spread together. So on mulching projects, it should be 1 yard per man hour. So we have 3 yards in this trailer, so it should take 2 people 1.5 hours. And the way I figured that out is 3 divided by 2 people. It should take us 1.5 hours to empty this trailer and get the mulch down and spread. I'm gonna go ahead and start spreading this mulch out and getting it smooth in here. We already have this bed prepped. Looks great. And then they're gonna continue to load and run. So it's really important that you don't get too far on dumping a bunch of piles everywhere without spreading some. So if you have a third guy, he needs to be communicating on like, hey, look, I need more in this area, or this is too much, spread them a little further apart. So it's really important just to have that constant communication as the project's going on. Yeah. You can go ahead and dump it over there if you want.
Yeah, I'm about to smooth over there. Don't. You fit anywhere?
No, I think we're good.
All right.
I like to use a pitchfork when I'm spreading mulch. It's just a tool of my choice. People like to use rakes. I feel like we get better spread. It's a little easier to work with a pitchfork because you can move pieces, like piles of it, pretty quick. So with mulch, we want it to be very smooth finish. We want it to look like a carpet almost. I still got some work to do on there, but it's getting very close there. So we want it to be very nice and smooth. And the way I do that is I just have the pitchfork kind of go back and forth, and it just loosens, or it just knocks down the humps. And then if it's a big hump, I can just take the pitchfork and scoop the mulch out. And then once again, we don't want to bury the trees. And I'm just going to keep working this edge. I'm trying to be very careful not to get any of this gravel, so I'm taking my time on this. So now that I got the edge in, I'm gonna work my way in the bed and work my way out. Usually it's against a fence or something like that, so you'd always start in the back and work your way out. The reason for that is you don't have to weave around the piles that are already been dumped to dump more mulch. And then also you're gonna work your footprints and any other, knee prints, hand prints, anything like that. You work their way out of that as well. You make sure there's no footprints. So I've got that back section pretty much finished. It's nice and smooth, nice brown coverage. Looks really good. So I'm gonna work my way for the rest of this bed.
I'd get all the damn high schoolers all riled up and shit. Then look, the ones that are all kissing and shit, I'd be sneaking crawling on the floor, grabbing their fucking ankles and shit.
Bro, the funniest thing is when we'd flip backpacks inside out. We take all their shit out, turn the backpack inside out, put it all back in, and zip it back up.
That's funny.
People be looking for their backpack.
The
It's right.
straps are on the inside?
Yeah, and it's zipped. It's all inside out.
Awesome.
Yeah, we used to do that.
That is awesome.
We used to do that all the time.
That is so funny, dude.
One time we accidentally broke the zipper as we were zipping. Yeah, you got it all done up until that area though, right? Yeah, so that's fine. That's fine. Yep, all right. Talk to you later. All right, so I'm starting to fill this edge in, but I'm not filling it in. I'm leaving it down there. So that's why we cut it so deep. So there's an edge here. It creates this air gap for the roots that it makes it harder for the grass to creep into the bed, and it also looks much cleaner. This is what it looks like so far. Now I just gotta go do the rest. All right, so we're almost done. It's looking pretty good. This line looks really good. Pretty happy with that. It does come in a little bit, but it gives a little character. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually take the hard rake and we're gonna kind of press the edges down, and those will get even. We're leaving a lip of about 2 inches along this edge here. So I'm gonna grab this rake. We actually have a grading rake, but the other one, the hard rake, looks very similar to this. And then we're just gonna take it and go like this, right on the edge. And this just evens out any unevenness, kind of smushes it off of the edge as well. So we always try to aim to get about 1 yard to a ½ yard extra of mulch, especially when we're estimating these. And the reason is it's way more efficient to have a little bit of extra mulch instead of needing that amount of mulch to finish the job. So we probably have, it's probably about a ½ yard, maybe not even a ½ yard left over. So this job was estimated almost perfectly. But what we're gonna do, since it's just so little, we're just gonna throw the debris on top and then we'll just dump that with the debris. If it was more, we would wanna push it up to either the front of the trailer or the back of the trailer, or if it was like the whole trailer, we could put a tarp over it and then put the debris on top, just to save the mulch. And then we can just, like, we could put this tarp right on top and all the debris on top of that, and then we could have that tarp over top of all the debris. So we could bring, you know, when we get to the shop or where we're dumping, is we could just unload all the junk and we still have all the clean mulch underneath. Might be a little dirty, but we could, you know, it would still be a lot of usable mulch in that. But with this small amount, we're probably not going to try to save this. All right, before we walk through with the client, what we'd want to do is we would want to watch the video, walk through one more time to make sure we've got all our ducks in a row. And then if we feel like we have, then we're going to go ahead and get the client and walk through. All right, so we're starting to wrap up. We got a little bit of cleanup left to do, but before we even clean the tarp up or anything, what we want to do is get the client out here, if feasible, and walk through the project with them to make sure they're happy with everything and everything looks good for them. So we're gonna go ahead and get her approval on this. And if we need to touch up anything, it's a lot easier to do it now because we still have all of our tools all over the place, as opposed to loading up and getting all ready to go, buttoned up, and then, you know, there was something we need to fix or we just forgot something. So we're gonna go get her and do a walkthrough. All right, we just did a walkthrough with the client. She was happy with how things are looking. We still gotta just pick up sticks and stuff like that, the debris. But other than that, we are wrapping it up. All right, so we've got everything done. We're loading tools up now. We still got more debris up front, but we're just loading ourselves as we go out. The one thing that is very important that we do is once we think we're like really about to put the truck in drive and leave, is we need to do one final walkthrough. And the primary thing of this is just to see the tools that we forgot. because it's so easy to forget them. We, you know, have a tool over here, a tool over there. So we'll do one final walkthrough after, like right before we leave the property, just to make sure. We'll check the backyard, check everything, make sure everything looks good. If we can't walk through with the client, just check all the work as well to make sure that looks great.